To Syntax with Elliot. This video is part 3 in a series on structural relations. And today we're going to be using the terminology we developed last time of nodes and dominants and branches to introduce some additional notions, those of mothers, daughters, and sisters. Before we do that, I wanted to quickly clarify something about the way I'll be drawing trees in these videos. We can kind of get at that by looking at the tree I have here, depicting a little snippet of a larger tree for the word cat. And I want you to think to yourself, how many nodes are there in this tree, and how many branches are there? Well, for the purposes of this series of videos, there are going to be two nodes, and one branch. And our two nodes, again I apologize for my handwriting, our two nodes are NP and N, and our branch is this line here that connects them. And as you can tell, this probably implies we will not be treating cat as a node, and we will not be connecting it to this terminal N head here. And I think there is a good reason for this. So one reason is that one thing you could take branches to mean is that a phrase structure rule has been applied. So we have a rule that says you can go from NP to N. We don't have a rule that says you can go from N to cat, right? There's no rule that's like this, right? N goes to cat. That's probably not going to be in our grammar because we have so many different possible nouns that N can match up with. So if you take the branch to mean a phrase structure rule has been applied, well, of course, there shouldn't be one that connects nodes to, or terminal nodes to the actual words in the language that correspond to them. Another reason is to think that all the branches sort of represent constituency relationships and subordination relationships between these abstract grammatical categories, right? If we think back to the first video about constituency, these lines are really meant to sort of capture the intuitions we have that some grammatical categories are much more intimately related than others are. And that relationship doesn't really seem to hold between the abstract category noun and the word cat. There is, of course, a relationship between them, but it's going to be a fundamentally different one than the relationships between these grammatical categories that we depict in the tree. So again, your professors may say something different, and that's fine, but for the purposes of these videos, I will not be counting the actual words at the end of the tree as nodes. So now that that's out of the way, let's get to the new terminology that we have. So the other place you may have seen tree diagrams is family trees, right? We connect up our relatives and things like that. And we use some similar terminology when we talk about syntactic trees, although we only use the female half of this terminology. So the first familial notion that we have is that of motherhood. And again, I'll read the definition, go through it, and then go over some examples. So, mothers. A node X is a mother to a node Y if X dominates Y, and there is no other node between X and Y. So the first part of this definition, again, there are two clauses here, is that X dominates Y. So if we recall last video, what it means for X to dominate Y is for X to be above Y on the tree in terms of levels of structure, and also for us to be able to draw a line straight down from X to Y, from one node to another. There's also this additional condition. There is no other node between X and Y. So now I think it's kind of helpful to go look on the tree here. So if we substitute A in for X and B in for Y, we can see that, right, A dominates B, and there's no other node intervening between A and B, right? The branch goes straight from A to B. But now, if we want to know, well, whether E is going to be Well, or to put it another way, whether A is going to be E's mother, right? It is true that A dominates E, right? We can draw a line straight down from A to E, and A is above E on the tree in terms of structure. But there's this other node C, right? C is going to intervene. We first have to branch to C, and then branch from C to E. So A is not mother to E. But it is mother to C, right? Because, again, it dominates it, and there's no intervening branch. So we say that A is mother to B and C. And if you think about, like, your family tree, this is probably going to be pretty similar. The other notion we have is a corollary of motherhood, and that is daughterhood. And we could define this simply as um, when A is mother to B and C, then B and C are A's daughters. But we can also define it without sort of recourse to our notion of motherhood and just say a node Y is daughter of a node X if Y is dominated by X and there is no other node between them. So again, if we look at B here, we see that it is dominated by A, right? And there's no other node between. And the same is true of C. I also want to point out, first, that all these relationships are things that apply to nodes, right? It's a daughter that's a node, it's a mother that's a node, right? Not to branches or anything else. And also that there are really sort of restrictions on the domination relationship and what it means to be dominated. So all nodes that are, every node that a certain node like A dominates, some of those nodes are going to be also its daughters, but not all of them, right? So this notion of daughterhood is really a restriction on our idea of domination. And the restriction is that there can't be any sort of node in between. So that's another way to sort of think about this relationship. And finally, we have the notion of sisterhood. So two nodes are sisters if they have the same mother. Again, this makes sense from the familial perspective. So B and C are sisters because A is both of their mothers, and they are both of its daughters. Okay, so now I have some exercises that you can try out. So I want you to considering the following 5 statements, whether they're true or false. So pause the video and take a try for yourself, and then I'll go over the answers. All right. So our first statement is that B is the mother of D. So if we look at our definitions down here, we first need to figure out, does B dominate D? So it looks like yes, it does, right? It's above D on the tree, and we can draw a line straight down from B to D. And then is there any node that sort of gets in between B and D? And no, there is not. So that is going to be true. The next statement, G is the daughter of E. So again, we can look at our definition. Is G dominated by E? Yes, right? E is above G on the tree, and we can draw a line straight down. And again, there's no other node in between, so that statement will also be true. Next, we have A is mother to F. So we have the first half of our definition satisfied, right? A dominates F, it's above it on the tree. We can draw a line straight down from A to F. But we also have this node C, which gets in the middle and complicates our mother-daughter relationship. So this statement is false. A is not mother to F. We could call it F's grandmother, but it's not its mother. Next, we have G and H are sisters. So if we look at our definition, the two nodes are sisters if they have the same mother. Well, we already established that E is G's mother. And if we look over here, it looks like it's not E that's H's mother, but F, right? So G is the daughter of E, and H is the daughter of F. So they are not sisters, and this statement is false. If we turn to our last statement, is that E and F are sisters. And again, I think hopefully you're starting to see these things intuitively. C dominates both of them, and there's no nodes that intervene between C and E and C and F. So that means that C is the mother of E and the mother of F, and that means that E and F are sisters. So this statement is true. So today we learned about mothers, daughters, and sisters. For the next video, we'll use those notions and develop probably the most important structural relationship for our purposes, which is something called C command. Thanks.